All right, let's talk about a skill that is absolutely critical to your success in, well, pretty much everything: communication. And look, this isn't about becoming some flawless, polished public speaker. It's about learning how to truly connect with people one conversation at a time.
85%. Just let that number sink in for a second. It represents a huge chunk of us, and it points to a feeling I bet you've had before. You know that moment when all eyes in the room turn to you and you're asked, "So, what do you think?" That feeling, it's connected to this.
Yep, that's right. 85% of people feel nervous speaking in public. So if you've ever felt your stomach do a little flip-flop or your mind just boop, go completely blank, guess what? You are not alone. It's basically a universal human experience. In fact, it's one of America's biggest fears. But here's the good news. That anxiety, it doesn't have to be in the driver's seat.
We can absolutely learn to manage this anxiety. The real key is to understand where it's coming from. You see, for most of us, that nervousness comes from this deep-seated belief that when we speak, we're being judged, that we have to put on a perfect performance. But that whole belief system, it's built on a really shaky foundation. This one question, it changes everything. What if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the whole point of communicating isn't to deliver some flawless speech, but to do something way more human and, frankly, way more powerful? What if the real goal is just to connect? And that leads us to this huge mindset shift. It's about seeing communication not as a one-way performance, but as a two-way conversation. The second you start thinking of it as an exchange, all that pressure to be perfect just starts to melt away, and it's replaced by a real opportunity to just engage. Let's really break this down. So on one hand, you've got the performance mindset. This is driven by a fear of making mistakes. The goal is this impossible standard of perfection, and it feels like you're just broadcasting out into the void. But then you have the conversation mindset, and this is a total game changer. Mistakes, they're just opportunities to learn. The goal shifts from being perfect to creating a connection, and suddenly it's a dynamic, two-way street. Just by reframing your goal, you completely change the entire experience for yourself. Okay, I absolutely love this quote. It comes from a workshop at Stanford, of all places. Dare to be dull. I know, it sounds totally wrong, right? But what it really means is let go of that crushing pressure to be brilliant all the time. When you stop trying so hard to be dazzling, you open up all this space for a genuine, authentic connection to actually happen. And that is where the real magic is. So, how do we actually do this? How do we put this whole conversation idea into practice? Well, you need a toolkit. And I've got a few simple but seriously powerful tools you can start using in your very next conversation. Now, this might surprise you, but the first tool in our kit has nothing to do with speaking. It is all about listening. Specifically, something called intentional listening. See, most of us, we listen just long enough so we can figure out what we're going to say next. Intentional listening completely flips that around. You listen with the single goal of truly understanding the other person. So what does that actually look like? Well, for starters, be fully present. Put the phone away. Actually look at them and notice their body language. Ask good, open-ended questions that invite a real story, not just a yes or no. And my absolute favorite tip, this one's from Stanford, get comfortable with silence. A little pause gives the other person space to think, and it shows you're not in a rush. It is such a powerful way to connect. Okay, so you've listened, you've understood. Now it's your turn to talk. But a clear thought deserves a clear delivery. And let's be honest, nobody wants to ramble. The secret to not rambling, it's all about structure. Here is a fantastic framework you can use for pretty much anything. A team meeting, a pitch, you name it. It's super simple. First, you state the problem. Be really clear about it. Then you present your solution. And finally, you finish strong with the benefit. What's the awesome outcome your solution is going to create? It's clear, it's persuasive, and it's incredibly easy for people to follow along. All right, here's another great one. This structure literally takes your listener on a journey. You start with the what. This is your core idea. Then you immediately answer the most important question. So what? Why does this matter? Why should they care? And finally, you outline the now what. These are the next steps, the call to action. This little framework is how you turn information into action. So, we've shifted our mindset, we've gathered our tools, but why does all of this really matter? Because here's the thing. Mastering connection isn't just about feeling less awkward in conversations. It has a real, tangible, and measurable impact on your career and your ability to lead.
And check this out, this is so powerful. Research highlighted by Harvard shows this super clear link. Effective communication doesn't just help you share your expertise, it actually builds the perception of it. These skills dramatically boost your personal impact. And you know what? They are the absolute foundation on which real leadership is built.
So here's the big takeaway. This ability to connect. It's not some fuzzy, soft skill. No way. In a world that is constantly changing, this is the essential skill. It is the strategic advantage that lets you build trust, navigate complexity, and actually inspire people to act.
Think about it. Every single interaction you have, from a big formal presentation to just a casual chat by the coffee machine, is a brand new opportunity. It's a chance to listen intentionally, to respond clearly, and to forge a real connection. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with your next one?